Is it wrong for knees to go over your toes when you're squatting? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So first of all, where I think this has come from, this absolute of your knees must not go over your toes when you squat, I think it stems from group exercise. So as group exercise instructors in exercise classes, we use movement cues to help the whole group to understand what they should be doing, because we can't, out of 20 people, coach everyone individually. So we'll use movement cues like shoulders back, brace the core. And one of the ones that used to be quite popular or quite common was don't let your knees go forwards past your toes. The reason this is quite often used in group exercise is because when you have someone, especially someone who's new to exercise, come to the class and they might feel a bit self-conscious, doing something like squats, they kind of tuck their bum under and they just drop their knees down and their heels lift. Yeah, and that hurts my knees immediately, all right? So to say in a group situation, keep your knees behind your toes. For those people who have been doing this, this helps them, because in order to keep your knees behind your toes, you have to sit your hips back and keep your heels on the ground, okay? So it comes from a useful cue, but it's been wrongly taken into this absolute you must not do. Also, I think it comes a little bit from, you'll sometimes hear coaches say knees over toes, and what they mean by that is they want your knees to track in line with your toes. If your feet are pointing forwards, knees point forwards. If feet are turned out, knees turn out. So I think it's a combination of those two things where we've ended up with this not quite correct, your knees must never go over your toes. So there will be times when knees go over toes during squats, and it's absolutely fine. So one of the times you'll probably be familiar with is if you've ever watched anyone powerlifting, so when they've got the barbell above their head and they go really deep into a squat, okay? And when you go really deep into a squat like that, and I haven't quite got the mobility to get all the way down there, but your knees will go forwards over your toes, all right? Now this is fine because my heels are down, my hips are back, my core is engaged, my body is able to move in that way. So in that case, when you're getting really deep into a squat with good form, yes, your knees are going to go over your toes probably, and yes, it's fine, because you're only going to be doing this type of squats if you are conditioned to do it, if your body is used to it, and it's strong in the correct areas. Another reason why knees will track over, might go forwards over toes in a good squat is to do with how your body is proportioned. So for me, I've got relatively long femurs in relation to my upper body and my lower leg. So for someone with relatively long femurs, as I sit back into my squat, I have to have a certain amount of lean forwards, because otherwise I'll just tip over backwards and my knees track forwards. They're probably about in line with my toes now. But again, good squat, heels are down, everything else is in line. So, long answer to a short question, but it's not absolutely wrong for knees to go over toes. Knees will sometimes go over toes in people who are used to doing their squats, have good technique. But as a beginner, if you've never done it before, keeping your knees behind your toes is not a terrible cue to help you push back into that position.